Hello everyone, welcome back to another book review. Today I am reviewing Stormfront by Jim Butcher. I have my friend here again today, and of course as soon as I start recording, she starts to clean herself. Ignore the cat cleaning herself in the background. And anyway, let's just get into this review. So Stormfront is the first book in the Dresden Files series, which is basically an urban fantasy series, so it's set in modern day in our world, not in an epic fantasy world like in these other massive series I've been reading. So in some ways it's a bit of a relief to get into this series for me, because I feel like it's almost like a relaxing thing to not have to learn these huge worlds while still enjoying myself. So that's one bonus. If you're not into learning these massive epic worlds and having to figure out all the names and the characters, the places, then you'll definitely like this series, because it's a bit of a step down while still having to learn these fantasy elements and the magic system. So it's a nice in-between gap for those sorts of people who enjoy that thing, and I quite like it, and a lot of other people have said this as a sort of palate cleanser book. That's what it kind of feels like, something to read in between these massive epic fantasy series whilst also standing on its own as a good book. So I'm not saying that it's only useful for reading in between proper series. It's still a series in its own. It's just a different type of series. So this is only going to be a short review because it's only a short book. I read it in a couple of days, and it's only the start of the series, so it's only really setting things up. It doesn't really get into the main storyline of the series yet. It's only a sort of single case, just introducing Harry and the world and his job, just for a bit of background. So Harry's basically a wizard living in Chicago, and he's this kind of magic private investigator. So sometimes he'll help out the police. If there's like a strange case that can't be explained, it's usually like a special division of the police who go to him, led by a character called Murphy, who was one of my favourite characters in the book. I really liked Murphy's character. I'll get more to the characters in a bit. And basically think like a mixture of Harry Potter and Sherlock Holmes. Not quite Harry Potter because it's more adulty. That's just an example. You know how Sherlock Holmes is contacted by the police and he says how he's the first, whatever was he call it, something consultant detective. That's basically what Harry is. He's like a detective wizard who occasionally helps the police. So until now he's only sort of taken on small cases from random people who are missing things, but now he's been contacted by the police about a double homicide, which has used this sort of dark magic to kill these two people. So basically these two people have been murdered by someone using magic, and now they want Harry to find out who did it. But there's this whole thing about, to find out who did it, he has to use the dark magic himself. But at the moment he's on the radar of the White Council, which is basically this like government of wizards, I guess. It doesn't fully go into it at this point. I think it's setting up for the future of the books, which is quite cool. I like the gradual build up to the important things in the future. I quite liked the little sprinkle of details that will become more important later on. But he's basically on their radar because in the past he killed someone. It doesn't go too much into that. That's not a spoiler because it's said very early on. And there's a guy called Morgan. Think of like a parole officer. That's almost what Morgan is for Dresden, and he's this guy with this like massive sword. I think he's also an executioner, but he really doesn't like Dresden. He basically wants to find any excuse to get him in trouble. So if he uses this dark magic, it's going to get him in a whole lot of trouble. So he has to kind of figure out how to solve this murder without having to do that, whilst also always having that possibility there, so he doesn't know whether to do it or not. So basically the story just follows him trying to solve this murder, and then at the same time he's also looking into a missing persons case for this other woman. So it's quite interesting. It's one of these books that have two separate cases at once, which I quite like books like that because it's kind of, it increases the stakes whilst you're trying to rush to solve both mysteries. And I like the little side kind of obstacles, I guess, like with Morgan. He was quite a good antagonist. He's not a villain, he's an antagonist because he gets in Harry's way a few times, and I quite like that kind of antagonist where he's not actually a villain, he's just an obstacle for the protagonist's goals. I really like that kind of character. And then even Murphy in some ways can be considered an antagonist as well. Even though he's Dresden's friend and he's the police officer who he works with, she actually is in a way an antagonist, because just as often as she's helping him, she's also trying to arrest him most of the time, which I really like that sort of dynamic. Murphy's a really, really cool character. She's a badass, basically. Although I'll get into that now about female characters. That is one issue I kind of had with this book. I have heard that it improves as the story goes on, but I don't think it's so much the female characters themselves. It's just more because it's told from the point of view of Dresden, and because of his view of females, it just kind of makes every female seem like overly sexualized, which is just a bit strange sometimes. I feel like there's never really a situation where Dresden can look at a female and not just like instantly rate her in his head and think about sleeping with her. I don't know. I know guys think of girls a lot, but it just seemed a bit over the top here. I don't know. I guess it is just part of Dresden's character, but it was just weird. Like, for example, on one part, it's not too spoilery, but there was a part where a vampire was drinking someone's blood, and Dresden thought of it in like a sexual way. And even that just seems a bit over the top, but I don't know. I heard it improves as the books go on, and I got over it eventually. At first, I didn't think I liked Dresden's character too much, but then as the story went on, I actually really, really liked his character. He was such an empathetic character. Like, he just cared so much about other people that I just really liked him. You really like root for him. You can tell he's actually like a good person, even though he does have his flaws. So already I am really invested in his character, and I have heard good things about how apparently he has one of the best arcs in like all fantasy series across all these books. So I'm really interested in getting to see that. Each book actually covers 1 year, so each book is a year ahead, and at the moment I think there's like 15 books, and there's planned like 25 of them or something like that. So, you know, that's a large chunk of Harry's life. So you actually get to see him grow up. So I am looking forward to seeing that, because that sounds like a really interesting, you know, arc to see. So yeah, that was one issue I had. But then as you read on, you kind of realize it's not as bad as it sounds. It's just kind of Harry being Harry. And he also even references it himself a few times, and he kind of knows that he's being stupid. He even admits at one point that he doesn't know women very, very well. So it's not too bad.
Weapons.
And yeah, I really enjoyed a lot of the characters in this book. Even though some of them were kind of stereotypes, I just really enjoyed them. And like reading this book after coming off of like Malazan books was just so nice. It's just such a breath of fresh air. I've heard a lot of people call these books palate cleanser books for like in between these big series, and I definitely know what they're saying. It's just really enjoyable to read. It wasn't too dark whilst also not being too like soft or like, you know, kiddie. It was a good blend of that. It's definitely not for kids. It's definitely more adult, because obviously the narrator, Harry himself, is a very kind of, I guess, adult thinking person. He has a lot of adult thoughts, let's just say that. He's meant to be a kind of charismatic, sort of wisecracking character. And at first I was a bit wary of this. Usually I think if there's going to be that kind of character, they're going to be the type of person who's just extremely cocky and just like basically a complete asshole to everyone, whilst also being overly badass and literally unable to lose in any way. I thought that's what Harry Dresden was going to be, but I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that that's not the case at all. More often than not, he's actually getting beat up. So to be honest, he's not perfect at all. And although he can be a bit of an asshole in some senses, he's actually quite a nice guy. So I was surprised, and I do really enjoy his character. And that's the most important thing for me. Like, I have to be engaged with the protagonist to like a book. And I was definitely engaged with Harry Dresden, so I definitely enjoyed the book. And I will be picking up the next one, Fool's Moon I think it's called. I'll be picking that up very soon and reviewing that. But yeah, there's not a whole lot to cover here because, like I said, it is quite a small book. I think the books do grow as the series go on. I hear that the series really properly picks up at book 4. Because even though at the moment, I think at the beginning of the series, each book is like an individual case. I think as it goes on, it kind of expands and becomes more of a sort of epic fantasy kind of thing, whilst also not being an epic fantasy. It's like an epic fantasy disguised as an urban fantasy, because there's kind of this whole world behind our world, which I find really interesting. I really like that kind of thing. I did really enjoy the world building as well. Even though there wasn't a lot of it, it was subtle. I can really see the foundations being built of what's to come. And Jim Butcher did actually plan like the entire series after writing a couple chapters of this book. So you can really see him laying the groundworks there. He completely planned out everything, which is crazy. As a writer myself, I am terrible at planning and outlining. So how he could plan 25 books or however many books straight from the beginning, I don't know how he did that. There's no way I'd managed to do that. So at least I go into this knowing that there's a lot more to come. There's actually 2 more books coming out this year. So I doubt very much I'll be able to read all the others before getting to them, but I guess I can try my best. In terms of the comedy, there were moments that made me laugh or smile, so it was quite an amusing book. Some of the comedy was a bit like cheesy and not the best, but I get the feeling that that's kind of just Dresden's character. He seems to make a lot of bad jokes, and sometimes he even acknowledges the fact that they're bad. I did like that about Dresden. He wasn't like a perfect, wisecracking one-liner kind of person who just can instantly say smart things on the spot. Sometimes he tries to say something smart and it comes out really stupid, like we all do in real life. It was quite a fun book whilst also having a lot of serious tones. So it wasn't like constantly amusing. It was also, actually, there was a bit of emotion to it as well. Not like massively emotional. I feel like that will come later. But just enough to get you invested and to really get sucked into the book. I definitely recommend reading this. You'll be able to burn through this thing in a couple of days. It's not a hard read at all. The writing style and the prose isn't the best, but I hear that it does improve later on. There are a few sentences that just feel a bit like choppy, a bit strange. For the most part, it is really easy to read. I just hear that his writing does improve a lot more over the series as well. So yeah, I think that's about everything for this book. Quite a small book, quite a small review. I'm not really sure how long this video is going to be. Sometimes I tend to ramble, so it might be a bit longer than it needs to be. I definitely recommend this book. I'm going to go on to the second one soon. And a lot of people do say that this book isn't amazing and that they don't enjoy it anywhere near as much as the other book. They say that it's not very good. I actually disagree with them. I liked this book. I enjoyed it. It wasn't absolutely amazing, but I'd give it, like a solid 4 out of 5, or maybe a 3.8 if that's, unless that's too specific. It's short. Can't go wrong with it. Read it. Although the only disadvantage is that each of these books is like £8 each. And there's like, at the moment, there's like 15 or 16 of them. There'll be 17 of them soon. And eventually there'll be like over 20 of them. So, if you want to buy them physically, it's goddamn expensive. But obviously you can get them in ebook form. I can't read ebooks. I've read a couple, but I just struggle. I have to have the physical book. I just need to smell it and feel it, I don't know. Some people think it's weird, but I just gotta love physical books. It's just so much better. Like, how can you not prefer physical books when there's books like this, Come on. Look at that thing. Just some books just look so nice. How can you not want the physical book? Oh, yikes. Sorry, Molly. That could have ended badly. Sorry about that. Nearly killed my cat. Jesus. But yeah, I love physical books. But I understand if people obviously can't afford them because they are very, very expensive. And I spend most of my money on them. I'm probably going to end up with no money soon because I've been buying too many books. I might actually make a video soon just saying all the books I've bought in the last couple of months because I've been buying a lot of books. But I'm obsessed with books. Yeah, that's why I have a channel about books. And that's why I want to write books. And that's why I'm talking about a book right now. And that's why I'm still talking about this book. Even though this book review should have been over like 5 minutes ago. Yeah. We're going to end this video with an opinion by my co-host here. What did you think of it, Molly? She's being quiet today. Show me up in front of my friends, Molly. How could you do this? Thank you for watching. Hope this book review was useful. It was only a small one. Probably wasn't because, like I said, this video is probably already too long. Stay tuned for my other reviews. Click this link up there if I can bother to post it. I might just be pointing at nothing right now like Harry Dresden does with his magic because I might just be too lazy to put this link in. I don't know. There might be a link there, there might not. If there is, click it. And if it is, it's probably my Gardens of the Moon, Malazan Book of the Fallen review. It might not be there, it might be. If it is, like I said, click it. I've read tons of books lately that I just really need to review if I'm not too lazy to do them. I say lazy, but I've been doing a lot of writing lately. I've been focusing a lot on my writing. I'm just trying to really balance that and making videos and reading and all that. I really appreciate if you could follow me on Twitter and like the video and subscribe and do all that stuff that, everyone asks in every single video ever, so it's really boring and, repetitive. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. She says bye.